Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're gonna jump into some ProRevenge. Our first story today comes to us from Abel Tensor. My mother ruins an anti-vaxxer Karen and her cronies. Let's jump right in. This story was a little too juicy not to post. There's a ton of setup for this one, so bear with me. Background. The subject of this story is my mother. For the sake of this story, I'll call her Amber. She's in her late 70s and works for a women's clothing store, which caters specifically to older clientele. She's been working for this particular company for some 20 years now. The manager of the store is the absolute epitome of a Karen, so let's call her Karen. Extremely entitled, short-haired, chubby, cheats on her husband, and blatant backstabber. Because the store is staffed by mostly older women, cliques tend to form. It's basically high school. Yes, older women can be that petty, and naturally, Karen has her own cronies. During periods where no one is in the store, there also tends to be a ton of gossip, important for later. The assistant manager, let's call her Jackie, is also one of Karen's lackeys, and she has her head way up Karen's butt. If Karen does something, then Jackie isn't far behind, etc. Amber is a bit of a ballbuster and she has zero tolerance for garbage in her personal life. Over the years, she has tried to stay impartial when it comes to her work, however, because to her, it's all about professionalism. It also helps that she has been the top seller for her district for some 10 years running, despite working part-time. Karen and Jackie absolutely hate her for it, so much so that Karen routinely schedules her for hours which are not especially good. Despite this though, Amber still has her loyal clientele, and she always comes out on top against the other sales associates in total sales every quarter. As expected, this naturally feeds the horrible feedback loop with Karen and Jackie. When COVID hit, the company decided to cut all commission for sales associates. The commission was one of the main reasons why Amber endured Karen and Jackie's BS. While she only made slightly above the state's minimum wage, with the commission, she could double or even triple that amount on good days. According to her, no other retailer in the area offers this kind of system, and it's pretty unlikely that the company will reinstate it even after COVID ends. Along with the cut in wages, the store was also forced to decrease the amount of hours that they could offer to their associates. Karen took this as a way to essentially bar Amber from working at the store. While other associates were getting 8 to 10 hours a week, Amber would see maybe 6 if she was lucky, and they would be during times of low customer traffic. Karen could get away with this because the district manager is also in her pocket. Along with the reduced hours and the removal of commissions, the store naturally had a mandatory mask policy for all employees and customers. Karen and her lackeys would often be and moan about how unnecessary this was because according to them, COVID is a hoax, and wearing masks makes you subservient to the government. There were a few incidents where Karen would let people without masks into the store, despite the state and company mandates. Amber refused to rock the boat, however, so when this would happen, she would go into the back of the store and stay as far away from these people as possible. During this period in time, a friend of the family and a good friend of Amber's passed away due to complications from COVID. The funeral was set for a time when Amber was scheduled to work, so she called out that day. Karen and Jackie attacked Amber, and the deceased claiming that she must have caught the flu or been in bad health, and that Amber was feeding into the lie. Oh, how nice it must be to live such a privileged life. Not long after, a few of the store's loyal clients also passed away from COVID, and still Karen and Jackie, along with their groupies, maintained their narrative in the most vindictive way possible. Every time someone died, it must have been because of bad life choices or bad health. Never was it attributed to the global pandemic that was claiming thousands of people a day, according to Karen and her groupies. And always when Amber decided to go to the services, she would hear snide remarks regarding how she was supporting a hoax. I guess sympathy is not really a thing for these people. Some of these customers were regulars who had been coming to that particular store for years, and still, none of the groupies would relent on these points. Recently, the COVID restrictions have started to lift, and many of the clientele and employees have gotten their vaccines. This includes submitting paperwork to show that you have indeed obtained a vaccine or a note from a doctor explaining why you couldn't have one. Not Karen nor Jackie though. To them, getting the vaccine would be like pumping poison into their veins. Instead, they decided to use fake COVID white cards with their information, effectively forging the documents. Amber, however, has suggested multiple times that they just get the vaccines when they are available, and given that almost all of the employees are above the age of 60, they have been eligible for the shots for months now. Recently, Amber had an emotional conversation directly with Karen where she expressed her concern for her. "I just want you and your family to be safe, so please get the vaccine." Karen responded with her normal snide attitude, of course. A few days later, however, Karen sent a text message mentioning that she had finally got the vaccine. She didn't. Amber replied that it was great and that she was happy for her. Karen just replied with a picture of some guy throwing up the middle finger. This was the beginning of the end for Amber. The incident. During one of her shifts, Amber overheard Karen and Jackie discussing how Amber was a moron and a sheep who bought the story about how Karen had taken the vaccine. During that same shift, Amber was working with a customer in the back, and some woman came into the store and stole a couple items of clothing, probably totaling out to be $100 at most. Now, it's company policy that during all shifts, there always be at least 2 employees in the store, and during this particular stretch of time, Jackie was the only other person in the store. According to the video cameras, Jackie was up in the front of the store playing with her phone when this woman came in. Normally, if someone steals items from the store, the protocol is to avoid confronting them and instead just call security after they've left the store. This is mainly to avoid lawsuits and to protect the employees should these people choose to get violent. It has happened in the past. That evening, Amber received a call from Karen telling her that she was on probation pending an investigation for allowing this woman to steal from the store. Given the company's policy regarding theft, this really made no sense. It was at this point that Amber truly decided she had had enough. Eventually, this probation led to Amber's dismissal, and the official reasoning was fairly vague. The revenge. One thing that I forgot to mention, a few years ago, Amber asked me to teach her how to record things on her phone, and luckily, we live in a single consent state. As such, Amber had recordings of these women backstabbing her and gossiping about rather scandalous things dating back for years. She had gathered quite the collection because you never know when you need to cover your own butt. Over the years, Amber has gone to HR to no real avail, even with her recordings. Whether it be because they are also in the pocket of Karen or that they just don't care remains to be seen. The HR department works directly under the district manager. Amber is also very good at keeping any paperwork and proof of these visits, including some recordings. She also recorded the call where she was fired. Amber has a ton of very loyal clients who were pretty distraught when they learned of her dismissal. One client in particular runs a column at one of the major newspapers for the nearby city. We will call her Casey. Since Amber was a part-time worker, she didn't really have much of a leg to stand on legally when it came to claiming a wrongful dismissal claim by legal means. However, that didn't mean that she didn't have any kind of recourse. She decided to attack the problem from multiple fronts. Amber compiled some of the greatest hits from her recording collection and had me email them off to the corporate offices of the company, specifically the CEO, CTO, and basically every member of the board of directors. I fired a couple bursts off to anyone who had any power that I could find. Along with those recordings, she wrote an email about how Karen, Jackie, and their group of sheep all refused to get vaccines and had falsified their vaccine documents to pass the company standards. Casey then put Amber in touch with a columnist for the newspaper, and they got copies of the recordings, the text messages, and the dismissal phone call. They also did an interview, which was for an article and a TV slot on the local news. Amber discussed the commission cuts, clear favoritism, lack of any intervention by HR, forged documents, company policy, the incident, etc. Basically anything relevant to paint these women in a terrible light. Among some of these recordings were bits of gossip that included conversation regarding Karen's various boyfriends over the years. She was married, and Amber also wrote an anonymous email to the husband that included some of these recordings. The fallout. Crap hit the fan pretty fast, as you can probably imagine. Karen, Jackie, the district manager, and a couple of the groupies were immediately fired and put under investigation for forging documents. While forging a vaccine card isn't really something too serious, it could lead to some pretty hefty fines. There is no specific law against forging the vaccine white cards. However, because the white cards contain the government seal, well, you can just imagine how illegal that might be. Let's just say the FBI has stepped in on this one. One of the recordings featured Karen admitting to using forged cards. After the article and TV slot ran on the local news, the CEO reached out to Amber to formally apologize for the behavior of HR, the district manager, Karen, and Jackie. She even went so far as to offer Amber a raise, but Amber declined because she found a job that actually paid a fair wage and let her work on her own time. The real B of it for the CEO and the board was the fact that their employees were breaking their company policy for a store that exclusively catered to older women regarding a virus that tends to kill older people. They caught some heavy public backlash for this. Karen's husband seems to have separated from her after finding out about her infidelity. Whether or not this will lead to a divorce remains to be seen. The best part for Amber, many of her clients started coming to her new store, and again, she's kicking butt as one of the best sales associates. Thanks for reading. I know this one was a bit long. This is another story that enforces the fact that you need to document everything when you're at work. Even the small things that don't seem very significant at the time need to be documented, because you never know when you'll be able to use them again in the future to take down the Super Karen. Great work by OP's mom, and I'm super happy they're in a much better job now. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Fanatic Cake. Bully my brother, guess you won't know who blew up the toilet. Let's jump right in. This is not my story, but from my educational advisor, one of the legit funniest people I have ever met. The other day we were talking about our school times and the differences between being educators and students when she started telling this story. She used to be the model student, getting along with all the teachers and getting the best grades in her classroom, but there was that one teacher she could not get along with. It was her chemistry teacher, and she described her as, all teachers have that breaking point where they just start screaming, but hers was incredibly easy to find. Until the point of the start of the story, she was just an unliked teacher and someone my advisor just dealt with. But one day, she reached her breaking point when her brother told me this teacher, which I'm going to be calling her rude teacher, was calling him stupid and screaming at him for not knowing an answer she hadn't even explained properly yet. That was when she got involved in a plan, the famous toilet bomb. Because of the shared gender with the teacher, she knew where and when rude teacher would use the restroom. She had a strange routine with the exact time and stall she used to use, and because she, as a model student, she could come and go without even being noticed, since no one would assume she was up to no good. Thing is, the whole class was in on it. Before she got involved with the plan though, there was a single condition: no one would rat or blame someone else. No one was supposed to talk anything. She had a plan. And to the toilet the bomb went. My advisor went to the stall, installed the toilet bomb, and went back to class at the exact time rude teacher had her restroom break. When she came back from doing the deed, she sits down at her desk and hears the explosion, followed by rude teacher screaming bloody murder and coming back to class to scream at them. The only classroom that was on break for teacher transition was my advisor's class, so rude teacher beelined straight to them and started demanding to know who did this. Of course, radio silence. She jumped in anger like a toddler, made all threats she could legally do, and made the biggest tantrum you could imagine, while being absolutely soaked in toilet water. Radio silence. The next logical step for rude teacher was to call the principal, that arrived at class with a box filled with pieces of paper. She explained that everyone was to write the name of someone involved in the toilet bomb and put there to be taken and read by her by the end of class. That was when my advisor stepped in. The second the principal was out of the class, she told everyone to just write "It was me" in capital letters and put the paper back in the box, which everyone did. When the principal came back and started looking at the papers in front of the class, she slowly turned from a normal color to a deep, fiery red and started throwing her own tantrum. Guess they found out her breaking point and did the only thing she could do at that point. She suspended the whole damn class for 3 days. In the end, my advisor did everything, blew up the toilet, led the class to not snitch on anyone, and earned 3 days at home without no one suspecting anything. Okay, I have to admit that I was hoping they would have written down the teacher's name on the paper. I mean, they were told by the principal to write the name of someone involved, and the teacher was definitely involved. Seems like a bit of a missed opportunity to me, although what they did was pretty cool as well. Check out both OPs at the links in the description down below. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.